Would you like to get warm inside? I could hardly get by on my own, but one day, in the park, I helped a homeless mother and her daughter. I lived in abject poverty. I had no idea why I acted in that way. Then, the firm I worked for lost its president unexpectedly, and the vice president, who was the president's younger brother, took over as president. I was feeling really depressed after I was dismissed for an unknown cause. But the daughter said, "Welcome back," with a small smile when I arrived home. "You've put in a lot of effort." Alex is my name. I work at an office as a single 29-year-old. I go by Lex among my school pals. Though I'm not very cool, I think it's a nice nickname. With my black hair and glasses, I project a dismal picture that makes me seem very mediocre, if not below average. I don't actively interact with people, although I can be thoughtful of others. Above all, my living conditions tell you that I am impoverished. In my opinion, my place is worse than that of a struggling college student. My rent for this cheap flat is only $130 a month. Though there isn't a wall dividing the two rooms, the apartment is really just one large space. The fact that the toilet and bathroom are apart is only due to the age of the structure. The floor is old, the rooms are thinly divided by thin walls, and the kitchen is small. Even somewhat loud voices can be plainly heard, albeit it's not like you can hear every sound. There is hardly any privacy. I hear a couple arguing next door right now. It's intolerable since it's not just arguments. Sometimes I can hear their private moments. In addition to the sounds of the neighbors, I can hear loud music coming from open windows outside and the sounds of illegally modified bikes. I therefore retreat to my room to decompress during these boisterous periods. Even though I don't yell or shout, talking angrily to myself at a reasonable volume makes me feel a little better. Verbally releasing my pent-up worry lifts my spirits. I find it more satisfying to express it aloud, but some people feel putting it down is good. It's free, and the very mention of it lifts my spirits. Give up the loud noises already. I'm not shouting, so no one is bothered, and my neighbors probably don't even notice. But at my age, one subject that often comes up is what's known as the marriageable age. Yes, please, I would like a girlfriend. Not that it's something to boast about, but in my 29 years, I have never had a girlfriend. I can't now afford to have a partner, but some of my peers already have children. I don't have the money to support her, even if I did. My student loan debt is the main source of my extreme poverty, and I'm barely making ends meet on a job that barely covers my living expenses. Becoming a parent seems like a far-off dream. At the workplace, despite my struggles, I'm seen as a hard-working employee who completes tasks on time. When I got to work one day, I saw some coworkers chatting. James, one of my coworkers, rushed over to ask me what was going on. "Alex, there's been an incident." An incident? I had assumed there might have been embezzlement, but that was not the case. The president passed away suddenly. What? But as of yesterday, he was okay. That's why it's a sudden death. Mr. Bellamy, the president, had a distinguished appearance and was a dapper gentleman. He appeared to be an industrious man and always had a straight gait while wearing a suit. He appeared to be alert and steady on his feet, giving everyone in the office the impression that the company was still safe. I had seen him about the office a few times. Thus, everyone believed the company was in capable hands. Who do you think will be the next president? Well, there's probably going to be him, based on the hierarchy. Him. James was referring to Robert, the president's younger brother. Robert visited the office every now and then, but neither I nor the other staff members thought well of him. Why is he even the vice president? Because Mr. Bellamy was a family man at heart and could not leave them. Still, does he really produce any work? It was difficult for me to respond to this question. Robert was ultimately named the next president. It was logical since they couldn't hold onto the presidency indefinitely. If that occurred, other businesses may view us with contempt, and some might even attempt to profit from the circumstance. Nevertheless, We felt nervous because Robert would now be in charge of the business. This was due to Robert's lack of involvement in the business up until this point. I had my doubts that he even knew how the business operated. If you were going to be president, you would normally at least take a cursory look at management. Despite its small size, our company employed a respectable number of people. Providing for all of their families is a significant commitment. Robert did not really work as vice president, despite having that title. It seemed that several workers had witnessed him gambling on a regular basis. These games may be enjoyable when you win, but when you lose, they cost you a lot of money. And after a significant win, it's simple to get into the trap of thinking, next time for sure, and to keep putting money in, which leads to a losing streak. We were very uncomfortable knowing that Robert, the new president, had been engaging in such activities. However, there were more causes for concern regarding Robert. "Oh man, I'm only feeling dread, James. I mean, there are rumors he messed up at his previous company too." "Got it wrong? Do you mean that he ran afoul of his boss?" "Exactly." This was a widely recognized tale. Robert had a reputation for losing his anger and had already run afoul of his supervisor at his previous job. And that was only 6 months after his enlistment. I was first taken aback by it. Nowadays, most people prepare themselves for the ordeal of a new company's first year. Giving up after only 6 months seemed really self-centered. Then the benevolent Mr. Bellamy appointed his impoverished brother vice president, though it's likely that he also attempted to force him to work. It wouldn't have been much use even if he had forced him to perform the vice president's duties. Indeed, it is true. Now that he's president, I hope he grows a little more mature, James remarked. James had little chance of realizing his dream. Individuals are not easily changed. Emma from accounting had been in charge of most business affairs up to this point. Emma was a well-known yet enigmatic figure. None of us had ever seen her before or had any idea of her appearance. It was also widely known, though, that the former president possessed a great deal of faith in her. She was virtually a legendary character we never saw because she was constantly locked up in the accounting room. We had never had a conversation over the phone. As Robert assumed the presidency, I was curious about Emma's future. As an employee, however, there was little I could do about it. But my fears quickly came to pass. When Robert unveiled his policies in his inaugural speech as president, we were all taken aback. "Robert, I'm the next president. There won't be any more leniency now that I'm in charge. I'm not sure how my brother handled things. I will not spare those who disobey my policies. I will fire them all." The older staff members clicked their tongues and mumbled things like "stupid brother" in response to the haughty and conceited speech. Going forward, a numerical goal will be discussed at every morning meeting. If it is not met, there will be a salary reduction. Put up a lot of effort and be organized. What? Yelled my mind, though I didn't speak it aloud. While setting goals is one thing, cutting pay for not reaching them is just plain oppressive. Pay attention. At work, quick thinking, discernment, and decisiveness are crucial. Do not procrastinate in an attempt to accrue overtime compensation. That's simple for him to say, but in many cases, overtime is unavoidable. That's just the nature of the job. However, Robert would scream at the top of his lungs if the work was even slightly delayed, which made him incredibly unreasonable, possibly due to his ignorance of genuine work. As a result, I was under constant stress, yet I managed to get by. I turned down a drink invitation from my coworkers that day after working all day and went directly to the cheap supermarket close to my apartment. For the local impoverished students, this grocery always offered fantastic deals. However, they put more discount stickers right before closing time. I didn't hesitate to add several significantly reduced prepared meals to my basket. Maybe this is the supermarket's method of making sure they sell out of all of their prepared foods before the end of the day. Along with the salad, which was on sale for 80% less. I also swung the plastic bag I was using as a reusable shopping bag, which was ready to develop holes from frequent use, as I exited the store. In this late hour of the night, I was walking home when I noticed two women huddled together on a bench in a small, dark park. I would have ignored it if it had just been two women chatting in the park, but there was something strange about them, so I paused and just watched. Based on their similar looks, the two women appeared to be mother and daughter. It was close to 10:00 p.m. In addition, they were somewhat unclean and were dressed extremely casually for the occasion. I walked carefully into the park, listening to their chat while feigning to get a warm drink from the nearby vending machine. "Mom, I'm cold." "It's all right. Just get closer and snuggle." "Thanks, it's much better now." I knew they were a mother and daughter based on their conversation. It appeared like the mother was in her early 50s and the daughter was in her 20s. What became of them? Even though they were wearing branded clothing, their outfits were filthy. I thought of the weather report I had seen on the TV that morning. They warned that although it wouldn't rain, it will get rather chilly tonight. I had never met either of these people before. Although my sense of justice would not allow me to ignore them now that I had seen them, no one would hold it against me if I left. Even so, I wasn't sure if approaching them was appropriate. I couldn't just leave them behind, but I also didn't want to be thought of as a criminal attempting to transport women to my location. Well, nothing happens now. I decided what I wanted to do and went up to the mother and daughter. "I apologize, but I'm not a suspicious person. I don't intend to harm you in any way. It may sound a little optimistic, but the news indicates that it will get really cold tonight. Would you like to come to my apartment if you have nowhere else to go? I realize I'm a total stranger. You can at least warm up in this rundown abode." "What?" "I'll do nothing, I swear. All I can do is offer you a warm bath. I promise. I'll even leave the room if you'd like. Simply put, I don't think it's healthy for women to be alone." The woman needed to reassure me since I was starting to lose my train of thought. "All right, I apologize. What made you come over here? We have nowhere to go and are homeless, as you can see." "Well, isn't it natural to help someone in need?" "What?" "Of course, if you think it's none of my business, I apologize, but no, it's not that." "Then, kindly accompany me. You can at least get warm, even though I can't offer much." I frantically invited the girl and mother to my rundown flat. I offered them the rear room and allowed them to use the bath, even though they appeared astonished by the location to which they had been taken. Since I had no women's clothing, I offered them an old school-issue tracksuit. "I've washed it, though it might smell a bit like mothballs. It's all right. You've already helped us so much. For food, all I have is instant noodles and some prepared meals." "But that's your meal, isn't it?" "Yes, so let's share it." I heated up the prepared meals and made 2 packages of instant noodles, dividing them into bowls and plates as I waited for the two of them to finish their bath. My impoverished bachelor's house has mismatched plates around. Although it was a little awkward, there was nothing I could do about it. Sincerely, I was relieved that I had kept some extra forks and spoons. "I'm sorry I invited you so confidently, but this is all I can offer," I said. "No worries at all." They shook their heads at my apology, but we still appreciate it. Their generosity brought me joy. They introduced themselves once the 3 of us had completed our little supper. "This is Catherine, my daughter. My name is Emma. We haven't had a warm bath or dinner in a very long time," Emma remarked. "My name is Alex." "Alex, are you not just full of justice and kindness?" Emma said this with a smile. "No, I'm just poor. However, you were helpful to us." The majority of individuals would simply turn away, particularly if they were having difficulties. Additionally, I'm sure you were hesitant to welcome women into your house. It's true that I was really skeptical. There are plenty of people in this world who would profit from kindness, but Emma and Catherine didn't seem to be that type of person. "Please stay here if you have nowhere else to go. Seeing a light on when I go home from work gives me comfort. I won't force you. It's a rundown apartment. But if it's not too much work, it's a modest, old place that can at least keep you warm in the winter." James would probably laugh and tell me I was too kind if I told him about this. Even so, after just one day, I couldn't bring myself to throw them out. It's like discovering a stray cat and then experiencing the heartbreak of having to give it up once more because you are unable to care for it. Emma and Catherine glanced at each other, paused to consider, then turned to face me and said, "We'll accept your hospitality," grinning with relief. I offered them the rear room as I had intended, and to maintain their privacy, I draped a bath towel in the space left by the thin wall. I made a bed in the kitchenette area by spreading cushions. After giving the two women the folding bed and mattress, that evening ended. Emma left early the following morning, claiming to have some errands to run. I didn't want to be a burden on my rundown flat, so I couldn't say anything as she was leaving to find another somewhere to stay. But Emma did not come back that day or the day after that. In other words, Catherine and I were the only residents of the flat, and I was strangely happy with our new situation. Ultimately, I could now return to a warm, well-lit room instead of the rundown, dark, and lonely chamber I had before. It goes without saying that I began to look forward to getting home from work. "Hi, Alex, I'm back." When I came back, Catherine smiled at me, and I smiled back. In the small kitchen, Catherine would prepare delectable dishes. There weren't many ingredients in the fridge, so on my way home, I'd pick up whatever seemed like it was needed from the regular cheap grocery, and she'd make it into a meal. It was like magic to me. It became a turning moment in my life to have someone wait for me when I returned home. I became aware of the value of people supporting one another after meeting Catherine. I was shocked to see Catherine at work a few days after it started to become the standard for her to be there when I got home. What the hell is this? On my desk, there was a piece of paper. Regardless of how many times I cleaned my face or massaged my eyes, the phrases remained the same. It was a notice of termination. No way. Now that Catherine was living with me, I had to increase my income. But we'd be homeless together if I got fired. I went directly to the president's office since I could not accept this unilateral termination. Robert was sighing heavily as I loudly knocked twice and opened the door without waiting for a response. "Robert, are you there too?" How annoying. "What?" Not sure why I was there, I asked him, not understanding his statement. "Robert, what is the meaning of this?" "I don't know, but isn't this termination notice from you?" I gave him a hard slap on his desk for being fired. Throwing a couple more notices of termination onto his desk, Robert appeared irritated. "You're the fifth person today." "What?" "Yes, 4 more workers have just barged in carrying similar termination notices. I cannot recall releasing any of them." "Is that true?" What good would it do me to lie? I scowled at Robert's irritated response. Robert would not gain by my termination. But then, who was giving the workers these notices of termination? I had never been a huge problem for anyone, nor had I ever inspired hatred or resentment in others. Well, this is real though. What? Robert grabbed the notice of termination bearing my name off the desk while I was still in astonishment. And before I could stop him, he stamped it with his permission. "Wait, please." "Don't wait. This serves as formal notice of termination. Gather your belongings and exit the business. Presumably, one of the executives is phoning the ineffective ones." Robert then chowed me down like a beast outside the workplace. When I got back to my desk, I saw James was furious and had received a notice of termination as well. James, however, laughed about it because he had been thinking about changing jobs since Robert became president and thought this was an excellent opportunity. Envious of James' upbeat disposition, I packed away my desk. Catherine gave me her regular greeting when I got home. "Hey, hello. You're early for today." Catherine smiled kindly to greet me. I told her everything that had transpired, forcing a grin. "Actually, I got fired today." Catherine smiled mischievously, rather than looking surprised. She poured me a cup of hot coffee at the folding table she called a dining table, and I followed her, startled by her response. Taking a taste of the coffee made me feel a little less anxious. First, Thank you for your hard work. No, it's... Catherine started talking, and I felt that instead of squandering time, I should start considering the future. Let me reintroduce myself first. Catherine Bellamy is my name. Does that ring any bells? What? Bellamy is my last name. Samuel Bellamy was the name of my father. What? Yes, my father was the former president of the company you worked for. I was speechless at what Catherine had said. More than anything, I was perplexed as to why it hadn't occurred to me earlier. It's not as if the Bellamy surname is particularly common. My mother and I were ejected from our house by my uncle Robert following the death of my father. We ended up being vagrants. He left the house with everything, even our savings. Though I was aware of his rudeness, I was unaware of his extreme badness. After all, Robert was still Catherine's uncle, so I apologized. Continually calling him a jerk would not help her feelings. It's all right. He is the ultimate jerk, the king of jerks. I couldn't help but chuckle at such outstanding assessment. It had been 1 week since we were ejected on the day you discovered us. Really, we were at our wits' end. For this reason, my mother and I cannot help but feel obligated to you for our thanks. You deserve all of that, Alex. Our decision is to exact revenge on Robert. Revenge. I got shares from my father, which he doesn't even know I own, although he could not know that. It's demonstrated by the fact that she wasn't dismissed first. My understanding of Catherine's words was incomplete. When she said Emma was dismissed, what did it mean? My mother Emma works at the company as an accountant. What? Not at all. I had no choice but to speak up. My father had total faith in my mother's accounting abilities despite the fact that my parents were no longer married. Although their relationship didn't work out, they made excellent business partners. I recalled hearing gossip that Emma, who Mr. Bellamy trusted, was also well liked by the managers. They used to claim the business would be oak as long as Emma took care of the bookkeeping. Emma probably stayed hidden in the accounting room because she didn't want anyone to find out that she was managing her ex-husband's accounts. She most likely wished to prevent any needless hassles in light of their divorce. My mother has made all the arrangements over the last 3 days. In an attempt to close the business without Robert realizing, she has started firing staff members one by one. Looking back, as you say, there were undoubtedly indicators. I was the 5th person that day to receive a notice of termination, according to Robert. His demeanor suggests that he must have also gotten termination letters from multiple other employees. After the new company is established, my mother intends to rehire everyone she let go of. The shares are what I own. Robert is not qualified to lead the business. Catherine grinned and had a leader's confidence. Although she seemed like a kind woman to me, she turned out to be really amazing. There was a stir in the workplace a few days after this chat. What? Are you letting me go? This is absurd. That day's meeting saw the board of directors decide to fire Robert with unanimous consent. The board's decision was final and could not be changed. Robert, you can either come work for me or get a new job on your own. What will it be then? You believed in quick thinking, sound judgment, and decisiveness, as I seem to remember. Make a decision quickly. Robert immediately announced his departure from the company as a result of Catherine's pressure. Considering that he had just been at the top of the organization the day before, he must have detested the thought of working under his niece. He has pride in the wrong areas, which makes him a genuine problem. Nevertheless, Robert struggled and was unable to obtain a new employment. Reluctantly, Catherine agreed to keep him on staff as a handyman since she felt bad for him. You're quite generous, Catherine. I believe I'm a fool too, but perhaps my father's genes ran in my family. Perhaps I'll come to regret it as well. Catherine grinned, her eyes dazzling. For my part, Catherine and I eventually started dating after moving into the same room. To put it briefly, Catherine and I have started dating. I've finally broken the habit of never having a girlfriend. I could have danced with delight. I was so happy. Although Catherine expressed her satisfaction with remaining in this apartment, I thought of transferring to a larger home. She expressed her enjoyment of the warmth and intimacy it offered. Though our lifestyle isn't very opulent, we'll manage as long as we help one another. I think so, and I'm going to stay with her going forward.